This video is sponsored by Supply Handlers.
Right, we have huge breaking news to bring you. Liverpool have sacked Arne Slot.
The news that Liverpool sacked Arne Slot was a bit of a shocker, not because everyone thought he was untouchable or anything, but more about the timing of the decision. At different points in the season, it felt like the Dutchman was certainly going to be shown the door, but the club stayed with him through the storm, only to eventually let him go after all the damage was done and some stability seemed to have been restored. This timing has made people wonder if there's a secret reason behind this decision and why it came when it came. Well, spoiler alert, there is, and we're here to talk about it in this video today. This is why Liverpool got rid of Arne Slot.
Hey fam, this is your chance to build the jersey collection you've been waiting for. The Goal 90 bundle deal is live. Buy 2 jerseys and get 10% off. Buy 3 and get 15% off. Buy 4 and get a massive 25% off. Club kits, country kits, retro classics, pick your favourites and save big. And yes, every order comes with free worldwide shipping. The deal runs only until the end of May. Goal 90 bundle deal. Buy more, save more. Shop now at Goal 90 Shop.
First of all, the season was terrible. Simple as that. Obviously, the whole thing about him losing his job only became a question when he started to do badly. If he went and successfully defended the league, we wouldn't even be here right now. But things were so bad, which started to make the club notice so many different things they didn't like. First of all, after an amazing debut season, helping the club win its 20th league title, the club showed faith in Slot by backing him completely in the summer transfer window. He made signings worth nearly €500 million, and after such a sizable investment, the team was expected to compete once again, but instead, they ended up crumbling so badly. They lost 20 games this season, finished 25 points off the top of the table, and failed to even get as far as the semi-finals in any competition. Now, with the team being so bad, Slot's flaws started to be so evident. First of all, his management of the players was called to question. But things got even worse when the whole debacle with Mo Salah happened. Most people blamed Slot for handling it so poorly, which led to it becoming such a big thing. I mean, this is a proper legend of the club, a player who just had an all-timer season and almost single-handedly won you the league. He should have been treated much better. But because of Slot's poor man management, Salah went on to have a very underwhelming season statistically and eventually had to leave the club. Everyone and their dog knows that, if that falling out never happened, Salah would still be a Liverpool player by now. And then don't forget that the gaffer clashed with the club's sporting director Richard Hughes over the usage of teenager Rio Ngumoha earlier in the season. Slot did not really believe in the kid and wasn't very interested in giving him minutes. After Luis Diaz left, he wanted the club to go out and sign another left winger like Malik Fofana or Bradley Barcola, but Hughes said no, insisting that he make use of Rio instead, a young player who had really impressed and dazzled during pre-season. That particular altercation probably affected the relationship between the coach and the sporting director, and it became only a matter of time before they would be forced to part ways. It probably also made Hughes have doubts about Slot's man management and ability to develop young players and build a proper project for the club in the long run. And speaking of Richard Hughes, he has a relationship with Andoni Iraola after having worked with him at Bournemouth. He was the club's technical director back in 2023, and he spearheaded the appointment of Iraola as coach, and of course the Spaniard went on to pretty much work miracles for the Cherries. Having worked with him and seen first-hand evidence of how good a manager he is, Hughes probably saw him as the ideal candidate to take over the Liverpool project. And seeing that he was available and was being targeted by other top clubs, perhaps he saw that as a golden opportunity he didn't want to miss, so he sacked Slot to make an opening for a man he trusts to lead the team into a new era. This would explain the timing of the decision. If he had sacked Slot while the season was on, he would have been forced to hire another coach who wasn't Iraola. Also, if Iraola never made the decision to leave Bournemouth this summer, maybe Slot would still be Liverpool coach right now. But with Slot having underwhelmed and Iraola suddenly available, it felt like the stars were aligned for Hughes. But of course, there are more reasons why Slot was sacked, and we'll talk about them in a moment. But if you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, go do that right away so you never miss out on our amazing content. Done? Okay, back to the video. There was also the issue of a lack of charisma. Right from the first season, it was obvious that Slot was very different from Klopp in terms of personality. Slot was never able to connect with the fans the way Klopp was able to. But in the Dutchman's first season at the club, he was winning, so it was easy to overlook that. But when the losses started to hit, the manager's lack of charisma and a deep connection with the fans started to become very obvious. And we're guessing it is one of the things that came up in the end-of-season appraisal. His style of play probably also came up as well. Salah made some scalding comments on social media, saying that the Liverpool identity crumbled during Slot's tenure, and honestly, it's hard not to agree with him. Under Klopp, the club was always feared because of how they always approach games. They might not always win, but they would surely make you sweat. But Slot's style is a lot more conservative and less scary for opponents. Salah said he would like to see Liverpool go back to the heavy metal attacking football they used to play in previous years. For him, that is the Liverpool identity, which just cannot be negotiable, and everyone who joins the club has to adapt to it. Such strong words from a club legend surely hold a lot of weight and almost certainly influence the club's decision to let the coach go. It's one thing if the style is not exactly appealing, but the club is still winning games. But when those wins dry up, then something has to be done. Also, partly because of this style, Anfield has stopped being a fortress. Liverpool's home ground used to be a place where opponents were scared to go to, but under Slot, it has lost that aura and now feels like just every other ground. The fans can't have that, the club can't have that, so Slot just had to go. And one can also argue that this conservative style stopped Liverpool from achieving much more in Slot's first season. They were outworked by PSG in the Champions League, beaten by Newcastle in the EFL Cup final, and knocked out by Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup. With a more aggressive and front foot style of football, they could have easily ended that season with 2 or 3 trophies. But all in all, we believe the main reason Slot was sacked was down to his seemingly poor man management and lack of a connection with the fans. There was an ongoing narrative that he was only able to win the Premier League in his first season because he had Klopp's team, and he sort of went and proved it right in his sophomore year. Also, he seemed to have really shaken the fabric of the team. In just 2 years under Slot, Liverpool have had to say goodbye to some outright club legends and some cult heroes. Mo Salah, Andy Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ibrahima Konate and Luis Diaz all left the club in the last 2 years when Slot was in charge. Even Konstantinos Tsimikas, who the Liverpool fans call the Greek Scouser, a name that shows you how loved he was by the fans and how he had grown to be a cult hero at the club, was also forced to leave the club, although temporarily. Obviously, not all the departures were fully on Slot, but most were, and the fans would probably be thinking that if Klopp was still in charge, they would probably still have had about 90% of those players in the squad. Of course, it didn't help Slot's case that Liverpool had tasted life under Klopp before he came in, so almost everything he did would be compared to the German. And to be fair, those are some huge standards to live up to. But even with that in mind, we still think that Slot did not do himself a lot of favours with the way he approached games and how he managed players, especially in his second season. Anyway, Arne Slot's time at Liverpool is now history, and the Andoni Iraola era has begun. Hopefully this is the start of a much more enjoyable era for the Reds, but we now want to hear from you guys. Are there other reasons you think Arne Slot lost his job as head coach of Liverpool? Why do you think Liverpool delayed the decision so much? Do you think they have made the right choice by hiring Iraola as his replacement? How well do you think the Spanish manager will do as head coach of Liverpool? Get in the comments and talk to us. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notifications so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye.